I'm back. Feels so weird because I feel like I haven't talked to you like this in such a long time. It's been, well, at least 3 weeks. Yeah, I feel like I haven't talked to you in so long. I missed you. So yeah, I'm back from Nunavik, where I spent 3 weeks for work. And it was so fun. I'm a little bit sad that I left just because I feel like I discovered a new way of life there. The pace of living there is so much slower. It just feels good. Nobody's hurrying up for anything. There's nowhere else to be. So it felt good to be able to take a step back from the busy Montreal life. I'm excited to be back in Montreal because, I miss my people, I miss my cat, my dance lessons, and all the art scene that we have going on here. I'm very excited because, September, October are really big months for art galleries and art shows. So I'm very excited to be able to catch a little bit of that. So yeah, there's that. But also, there's the pace of living there that I loved. There's the nature there that I loved. But I also felt like my work-life balance was much better there. People there were interesting too. My colleagues, we all shared the similar mindset of being adventurous, but also independent, but loving nature. So it was fun. While I was there, I filmed some clips with my camera and with my phone, but I did not do any sit down or I did not speak directly to the camera because I felt a little bit self-conscious. Everybody knew that I was making art and I was loving it. I was taking pictures, doing paintings and stuff like that. But it's the YouTube part that I feel like most people wouldn't understand. Yeah, so I was saying I filmed some clips here and there. So I thought I could do like a voiceover over some of the clips that I filmed so I can explain to you what I did. But basically, the routine that I had was that from Monday to Friday, I would work 9 to 5. Sometimes I would be on call. So I would go home with a CB and with a car, and I could be called at any time to go back to the clinic if there was anything urgent happening. But most days I was not, so I had the whole evening to cook, to paint, to do my yoga, to do some workouts at home. I went to watch the sunset. And during the weekend, that's when I would go out in the tundra with my colleagues. So we would sometimes either just go on a big hike or we would rent. I don't know what the translation is in English, but I think it's ATV, the four-wheelers. You drive like this. You know what I mean? So on one of the days we rented that, so we went a bit further in the tundra. It was so beautiful. So I took a lot of pictures there and it was very inspiring for my art. I painted a lot. I was very productive there. So I'm excited to show you everything that I did. I already posted some pictures of them on Instagram. I posted a lot of stories. So if you follow me on there, you might have seen a lot of what I created, but not everything. I would still encourage you to follow me on there because I think my Instagram is great. Here we are, finally in the plane, looking out of the window and having some fun with my little watercolor pencils. I was listening to the older Inuit lady sitting in front of me. She was telling her neighbor all about her life, so it was super interesting, a lot of storytelling. And this was my first view of the tundra. I was so amazed. And this was our little plane. I started painting while I was in the plane on our way there because I felt very inspired about the airline's logo. We went with Inuit Airlines, so they have this beautiful red logo with a bunch of birds flying into each other. It's very pretty, so I drew this. Yeah, so this is Air Inuit, this is Nunavik, and if I remember correctly, I'm not sure. I think this is Montreal and this is Inukjuak where I was going, or the reverse, I don't remember. And these are the 2 stops that we did. But yeah, I found that it was nice to draw in Inuktitut. I don't know, I was very excited to get there. It was a great way to pass the time in the plane also. We each had a little magazine, so I drew one of the pictures that I found on there, and I feel like, without knowing it at the time, this is very representative of the landscapes that I saw during my trip. So I drew this. I only had my watercolor pencils in the plane, but I had no water, so it's just drawn in. I think I went over the sky here afterwards with a paintbrush when I was at home. Back to the tundra again. We had a few stops and the view was just so beautiful. And finally we were there. On my first day, I had some fun walking around. I had the whole afternoon to myself before starting work the next day. I brought some paper. I brought some Clairefontaine watercolor paper, 300 GSM, acid free, but I haven't seen anywhere that it's 100% cotton, so I'm assuming that it's not. I think I could feel it in the sense that I noticed that it did not stay wet a very long time. I would have liked it to stay wet a little bit longer, so I could have mixed my colors on paper a little bit more. It is what it is. I still had a lot of fun. The only thing that I forgot that I kind of regretted was that I forgot to bring some painting tape. So I could not tape my edges. So sometimes I would paint and the paper would warp a little bit. But I was able to put all my papers under a big weight and they are relatively flat now. So the first painting that I did there, I think I did it on my second day or something like that, is based on this picture. I don't have the painting here because I ended up giving it to my roommate. But I can show you a picture. I took a picture before I left. And what I like about it is that I feel like it represents the scene very well, but I also took some creative liberties. I like how I painted the rocks blue, and I just like the light in this image. So that's the first one I did on paper. I continued my exploration. This was a museum that I was hoping to visit, but turns out that it's closed. I don't exactly know the reason, but I was never able to set a foot inside. This was a view of the little town I was living in. It's really not that big. There's dogs everywhere, which is fun. And I think this was my first sunset, or one of my first sunsets at least. Another sunset. I did a montage where I put all of the sunsets that I filmed together. It's such a nice souvenir. The beach was very close to where I was living, so I went there often to go watch the sunset. That day was on a weekend. We went on a hike with some of my colleagues, so I just joined a couple of pictures here and some videos. There was this little, it's not a waterfall per se, maybe it's more rapids, but it was so nice, so relaxing. And we went quite far that day. The landscapes were just so beautiful. I have never seen anything like this. It makes me feel, I've never been there, but it made me think about maybe Scotland. I don't know if you would agree with me, or maybe Ile de la Madeleine. Then we found a caribou cemetery. Apparently there was a caribou farm not too far from there about 20 or 40 years ago, like a couple decades, and they put the bones there. And we stumbled onto some little puppies. Oh, they were so cute. That's the mama. Oh, but they were so cute, so friendly. I brought my sketchbook with me during my little hike, so on one day I just quickly drew the shoreline. At first I only did these drawings with my pencils. I did not add any water and I just used that purplish color. And at home, after I added the turquoise for this one, but this one I just kept as a drawing. This was a landscape that I saw. We were in the car, we were going somewhere, and I forgot my phone, so I didn't have it with me. So I had no ways of taking a picture, but I thought that this landscape was so pretty. The light was perfect. I just asked my colleagues to stop the car and to give me a few minutes so I could at least sketch this landscape because I really wanted to paint it. So I indicated where the sun was hitting the ground, where the shade was, the general colors, in the hopes of later painting this landscape. Another sunset. Just can't get enough of them. Every day when I saw that there was a nice sunset going on, I would just go outside and try to take pictures. I finally saw some northern lights. It was my hope that I would see some. That day was the most beautiful day. My roommate really wanted me to do a painting for her and she wanted the northern lights, and I told her that I had no idea how to paint that, and I didn't really want to paint that also because I knew I just wouldn't make it justice. I have no idea where to start with northern lights. I feel like there are so many layers of light and sky, and I didn't know how I would be able to create something beautiful in such a short amount of time. I feel like I would need to practice a lot before I knew how to paint that in a beautiful way to get to a result that would feel satisfactory for me. But still, I was intrigued, so I decided let me at least do a little sketch in my sketchbook. I did not intend on doing a final painting with the northern lights, but I just wanted to do a little sketch. So this is what I did. I used my watercolor pencils, but I used no water at all, and I like the result. Pretty spooky. I like the colors that I chose. And I like the little shadow of this stop sign. I have my new Stillman & Burns Zeta series mixed media sketchbook. I remember that I showed you an unfinished painting that I started at my dad's place, and I finished it when I was up north. So let me show it to you. Even though it's not inspired by the north, it's still something that I did there. So I feel like I was able to salvage it somewhat because where I left it first, I was not very hopeful in what I could do with it. But I have to say that gouache saved this one. I was able to add some details in the tree because of gouache. So I'm happy I had gouache on my palette. Then this is the first big painting that I did in this sketchbook. It's based on a picture that I took up north. And it's of this beautiful field. So you have flowers in the foreground, and then you have the grass, a little house or cabin in the background, and then you have the water. This is not the Hudson Bay though, this is the Inukjuak River, I think that's the name. So you're gonna see this river a lot. Here again, white gouache saved me. I was able to add the flowers, the lightest flowers, because of gouache. So yeah, gouache is very helpful for sure. Then I went on a walk one evening to go watch the sunset again, and the sun was this bright red, huge red ball. It was so beautiful. It happened a couple of evenings there that the sun was so red and so big during sunset. So I really wanted to capture that. And I tried to paint it in a way that would represent what I saw. So I kind of exaggerated the sun. I made the sun pop. So I did two representations of the same image in two different styles. So we have this first one with the very colorful sky, a lot of contrast between the sky and the rocks and the mountain line on the horizon. You can see the reflection of the sun in the water very well. So I like it. And you have this little bird that's very cute, and that adds a lot to the picture, I think. And then I did the same thing, but I kept the sky and the water a lot paler, and I used a different color palette. I really like this one also. I like the fact that I did not draw inside the rocks. I kept everything very illustration style. I did not draw inside the bird also, so I like it. I feel like these are two different ways of representing the same image. This was another dog friend. He was super friendly. He was always there right next to the beach. I don't know who feeds him, who's his owner, but he was always so excited when we came to visit him. And just another view of the town. I feel like every day I discovered new spots. So I had some fun just filming some shots for you. I also played around with my camera a little bit. I usually don't use it to take pictures, so I had a lot of fun just learning the settings and everything. On another evening walk to go watch the sunset, I brought my watercolors. I think this was just watercolors, yeah. And I was thinking that it was difficult drawing the tundra because everything is so low to the ground. I don't know, I thought it was hard to represent with it being clear that it's tundra. So I decided that I would try not to think about it too much and just put color on a page. And I even didn't bother to wait for the sky to be dry before I painted the little mountains in the background. So everything kind of blended together. It is what it is. Is it my favorite painting that I ever created? No. Did I have fun? Yes. Finally, the last drawing that I did in this sketchbook is a drawing based on a picture that I took during one of our walks. It was during sunset and it was so beautiful. So I decided to paint this little landscape. What I liked about the landscapes there is that there's a lot of water because we were right next to the Hudson Bay. So there often was the Hudson Bay in the background, but there are also a lot of puddles and a lot of little lakes, little waterfalls. Water is very present in pretty much all of the drawings that I did of this place. So we have this little puddle that reflects the sky. I used some watercolors for the sky and the water, and I wanted to keep it very light, so it's like a mirror. And then for the rest, I used my watercolor pencils, but I did not add any water on there. It's very cute. So that's what I did in this sketchbook. You may or may not recognize the drawing. This is the painting that I created based on the sketch that I did in this sketchbook. You know the one when I said that I didn't have my camera, so I asked my colleagues to pull over real quick so I could sketch the scene, and I wrote where the light was hitting and where the shade was. I went back to this place a few times and I took some more pictures, but the light was not nearly as perfect as it was on that first day. So it took a long time to paint this one because the pictures that I had did not reflect what I wanted to paint really when it came to light. So I really had to take a long time to think about where the light source came from. When you don't look at it too much, I feel like it works, but I see some mistakes. Some areas should have been in the shade, but I still like it nonetheless. I drew a rectangle around it to kind of replicate what it would look like if I had some painter's tape. So I like it, I like the colors. I went on a solo hike one weekend and I brought everything with me, my sketchbooks, my watercolors, my watercolor pencils, and I sat down at some point and I just tried to paint the tundra, tried to paint the landscape that I had in front of me, and I finished this painting back home with adding some watercolor pencils, some details, but I did the first layer plein air style. So this is what I did. another big landscape. And what I loved is that every weekend, so I was there for 3 weekends. The first weekend, when I went out in the tundra, everything was green, luscious. We had a little bit of yellow, a little bit of changing leaves, but not a lot. Then on the second weekend, everything was this bright orange. You could find almost no green at all anymore. These bright autumnal colors, so beautiful. And on my last weekend there, everything had turned brown. All the leaves had fell and it really became a lot duller. So it was very interesting to see this quick change in the vegetation. And now I'm back in Montreal and it feels like summer again. So yeah, this is the drawing that I did in the most beautiful landscape ever. Very happy about it. On that day, I think I walked 8 kilometers, on that solo hike. It was so peaceful, so relaxing. I liked just taking the time to take some pictures, play around with my camera again, and just relax, do exactly what I wanted whenever I wanted it. So it was so fun. And that's me. It was a little bit cold with the wind. I still felt cute. And I was very excited about my drawings that I did. This is where things for me get interesting. I think that we stray away a little bit from the realistic and we go more into the stylized. The next painting that I did, I think, is one of my favorites. It's based on a picture that I took in a hike, and this is this painting. I feel like I was able to achieve a flowiness to it. I feel like there is movement in this image. I feel like the eye goes where it needs to go. I feel like I was able to represent the tundra without being obvious about it, without having to draw every single bush. But I feel like you get that this is vegetation that is low to the ground, that is fluffy like a pillow, because it was for real. There was a thick layer of moss. You just felt like taking a nap in there. So I feel like I was able to represent that. I feel like my color choice was good. I like the pops of pink in there and the skies. I love this one so much. This was the day where we rented the four-wheelers ATV. Still don't know how to call it. So we went a bit further than usual and I just saw even more beautiful landscapes that I was just breathtaking by. This is the only vertical one that I created. I just love the composition. I love the colors of the tundra. It was the best weekend for colors like this. I like the sky, the water. I like the colors that I did in this little part here. Yeah, I feel like I was able to get to something really good with these. And what I did to create these, you'll see that the colors are pretty similar. I used my watercolor pencils to create this sketch, so I filled in pretty much everything, and then after I just had to add some water, so it was easy for me to blend some colors together, because like I said, this paper did not remain wet for a very long time. So when I used my watercolors for the first two drawings, I had trouble blending the colors together because by the time I would add another color, the first one would be almost all dried. So at least with this technique, I was able to blend a little bit more because my color was already on paper. The last two paintings are based on pictures that I took during my solo hike. So the hike where I painted this one also. These were taken on my way back to the city. This one I think might be one of my favorites also. So you can also see the little four-wheelers tracks here. You have the tundra, you have the mountains in the distance, and this house. This house I painted a few times. This is the house that features here, little blue house. It's here, and it's also going to be in my next painting that I'm going to show you. So I did this. I love it so much. I love the colors. Yeah, I love it. My last painting that I did on paper is based on a picture that I took, like I said, on my way back to the village. I saw this group of fishermen coming back from a trip. They were coming out of their canoes. There was a couple of four-wheelers there also that I did not paint. I kept this part very simple, but I just love the scene. I love the lake that you saw in the background, and in the foreground you still had the tundra, and you also saw the little house. So you see the house, little house here, and you have the canoe and the people coming back from their fishing trip. Yeah, it was so much fun. I kind of want to go back on some of the things that I said or that were worrying me during my last video. The first thing, it was what to bring considering the weight limit that I had. What I ended up doing was send some food by cargo, so it arrived a few days later, maybe a week later. It turns out that in my bags I could have added 4 more kilos. I thought I was pretty flush because when I weighed my bags here I was like to the limit. I guess my scale is not the best, so I could have added 4 more kilos, which is a lot when you think about it. And my cargo was like 1 or 2 kilos too heavy, so I had to pay a surplus for that. So I could have balanced some stuff a bit differently and I had to pay nothing. But anyway, turns out that I did not have to bring this much food. I think that the information that I got when you went up north was very general. So I think that some villages have a bit more food options than others. And I was lucky to be in a village where it was the case. So we had 2 grocery stores and the prices were not that bad when it came to healthy stuff like vegetables and basic things. The prices were pretty similar. It was when it came to like packaged stuff or cans, things like that, cereals. These things were very expensive. Everything that was unhealthy, like chips and stuff like that, or candies, were very expensive. So I did not get any of those. But I could have brought less stuff and bought some stuff there instead. I think it would have been simpler for me. If I were to come back, I would still ship some stuff by cargo, but I would ship some frozen food like frozen vegetables, frozen smoked salmon. I didn't have to bring pasta or sauces. The only thing that I feel like was very important to bring was all the things I didn't want to have to buy there. So like a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, all of my spice mix, because you don't want to have to buy the big thing there because you're not going to use it all. So these are the things that I would bring if I were to go back again, or should I say when I go back again. I feel like I couldn't have done anything different really because I didn't know what to expect, so I had to plan for the worst case scenario. And then on my last day there was a cargo boat that arrived. I don't know how often it arrives, but it stays in the bay for a few days. So I took a picture and I painted it very quickly. This was my first time painting a boat, but I know that a lot of artists enjoy painting boats, just like landscapes, portraits, still lifes, and I feel like you have birds and boats that are a category. Oh, and self-portraits. I feel like these are like artist categories. I have yet to paint a bird, but I painted my first boat. I love how loose I was able to paint it. I love the shadow on the boat and the red top. I love the clouds. I don't know, I feel like I did it very quickly, but I was able to represent the essence of the boat. So that's it. I think that this is a good overview of my trip that I had, of the art that I did, my final thoughts, and yes, I would like to go back again. I'm planning to go back maybe before the holidays, so it would be soon. I'm not sure if it's gonna work, but I would like for sure to go back in the spring, beginning of spring, for about 6 weeks. I'll let you know when we get there. For now, there's nothing official, but yeah, I would love to go back and maybe go in a different village. Who knows? So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it made you want to discover maybe your own country or maybe a different type of nature, a different type of climate that you never thought about. I will see you next week with another art video. Bye, take care.